Uncertain about how to turn the tables, Claude tried to drag Alfoy into a new 10-year wager, but Alfoy furiously refused to gamble any further, realizing Claude was a hopeless addict. Deciding 20 years was too steep a risk, Claude rejected Ghislain's lowered 10-year offer as well, declaring he would rather die than make another bet. Disappointed, Ghislain handed Claude a new stack of documents containing blueprints for strange facilities alongside a list of rare herbs, ordering him to buy up materials from northern merchant guilds to produce a lucrative, high-end specialty product based on Ghislain's past life knowledge, ignoring Claude's pleas to sell off their massive food surplus instead. Turning to Alfoy and the Six Mages, Ghislain placed Alfoy in charge of civil engineering projects across the estate, ordering them to use their magic to break rocks, dig canals, and purify old wells. When Alfoy indignantly refused to do manual labor, Ghislain threatened to sell them all to slave traders, prompting Alfoy to instantly submit. Out in the hallway, Claude and Alfoy engaged in a fierce, petty argument over who was to blame for their loss, nearly resorting to magic and daggers before Ghislain broke up the fight and sent them back to work. Over the following months, the Fenris estate flourished through continuous investment. Winter crops grew rapidly, public infrastructure expanded, and workers poured into the region. When a Crimson Flame Tower elder arrived with 20 mages to establish the new branch office, a desperate Alfoy ran out screaming for rescue from his slavery. Belinda immediately incapacitated Alfoy by twisting his neck and dragging him away, while Ghislain smoothly convinced the reluctant, depressed elder to hand over branch leadership to Alfoy and return home with a discounted batch of highly sought-after runestones. After the elder hurriedly departed, Ghislain welcomed the remaining 20 unsuspecting mages with open arms, inwardly chuckling as he prepared to press his newly acquired 26 mage workforce into hard civil engineering labor. Exhausted and sporting dark circles from constant civil engineering labor, Alfoy kept his mouth shut and obeyed Ghislain's orders, leaving the 20 newly arrived mages furious at his perceived cowardice. Fed up with the grueling construction work, the new mages confronted Ghislain directly to demand an immediate end to their exploitation or threatened to return to the magic tower. Watching from afar, Alfoy and the 6 original mages secretly celebrated, hoping the newcomers would get crushed so they could share the burden of the workload. Unbothered by their rebellion, Ghislain offered the 20 mages a simple wager: attack him all at once, and if they inflicted even a single scratch, they would receive unlimited runestones and freedom. If they lost, they would sign slave contracts. With a few elegant swings of a wooden club, Ghislain single-handedly overwhelmed all 20 mages, forcing them to sign 10-year slave contracts as well. Now commanding a workforce of 26 enslaved mages, Ghislain summoned them to the herb development room to inscribe extraction and purification magic circles onto specialized tools, ignoring a thoroughly traumatized Alfoy who refused to guess what they were making. Using workers to boil, mix, and refine rare herbs according to his past life memories, Ghislain spent several days tweaking ratios and magic circles until the initial black sludge transformed into a pure white extract. Smiling with satisfaction, Ghislain gloated over stealing the Delphine Duchy's future signature cash cow product right out from under them before they could even invent it. All that was left now was to mass-produce and commercialize the newly developed herbal extract. After stirring and cooling the white liquid until it turned viscous, Ghislain rubbed a bit between his fingers and noted how smoothly it absorbed into his skin. When curious commoner workers asked what it was, he explained that it was called Essence, a luxury skincare product targeting image-obsessed nobles. Ghislain knew from his past life that this exact product had been the Delphine Duchy's primary cash cow and continent-wide sensation. Hoping to test its efficacy, Ghislain offered the essence to Belinda, who bluntly refused to let him use her face as a test subject for unverified cosmetics. When Wendy used mana to vanish at the sight of the bottle, Ghislain turned to Claude, who immediately viewed the homebrewed product as an impossible endeavor for an uneducated lord. Seeing a prime opportunity to void his slave contract, Claude agreed to a new 20-year wager with Ghislain, offering 10 years and 5,000 gold if Ghislain lost, before heading off to recruit co-bettors. Claude tracked down Alfoy and used his silver tongue to convince him that if a six-circle tower master could only manage high-quality soap, a rural lord's attempt at cosmetics was guaranteed to fail. Reinvigorated by Claude's grand speech about gamblers' resolve, Alfoy and all 26 estate mages bonded over their shared desperation and joined the bet. Leaving a dumbfounded Wendy shaking her head in dismay, Claude and the entire brigade of mages marched enthusiastically toward Ghislain to stake their freedom on what they were certain was a sure victory. Seeing the wizards charge in with great momentum, Ghislain wore a disdainful expression and accepted a group wager proposed by Claude. If the mages won, their slave contracts would be canceled alongside a 2,000 gold payout each. But if they lost, 10 more years would be added to their contracts within a 1-month timeframe. To prevent deliberate sabotage, Ghislain barred the gamblers from testing the essence themselves, leading to a search for a trustworthy tester. After Kyor arrogantly refused and Claude blocked a suspicious Belinda from participating, Ghislain struggled to find volunteers. The residents, wary of his eccentric past and lacking the reassurance of a famous duchy's brand name, actively avoided him and spread negative rumors. Just as a frustrated Ghislain prepared to enforce testing on everyone, the loyal knight Ghislain stepped forward to volunteer. Within 3 days of applying the essence before bed, Ghislain's rough, sunburnt, and aged skin transformed into a smooth, vibrant bronze, making him look noticeably younger and drawing amazed whispers from the mercenaries. Word of the revolutionary product spread rapidly across the estate. Exactly 1 week after Ghislain began the test, Belinda, accompanied by Claude, Wendy, and a crowd of shocked estate members, burst into Ghislain's office and passionately demanded a jar for herself. Playing dumb as Belinda shamelessly begged for the new cosmetics, Ghislain tossed her a handful of jars before handing out boxes of samples to Kyor, the mercenaries, and Wendy to distribute across the castle's staff. While Claude desperately reassured his panicked mages that Ghislain's results were a fluke from expensive herbs, rather than true formulation success, Ghislain gifted extra jars to Ghislain for his daughter and personally delivered a bottle to Vanessa, encouraging the overworked mage to take care of her hygiene as she studied in isolation. As the entire castle's staff and mercenaries applied the essence, glowing reports flooded in with 0 side effects, leaving the staff delighted to look noticeably younger and feel pampered like nobility. While Claude put on a confident front to keep the mages from breaking down, he secretly began biting his nails and panicking as he watched everyone's skin, including his guard Wendy's, glow brighter by the day. Realizing that sabotaging the test was impossible without incurring Ghislain's terrifying wrath, Claude fell into classic gambler's denial, desperately hoping for a hidden side effect to force a draw. Confident in his flawless results after 2 weeks of testing, Ghislain ordered a grand 2-day estate banquet to celebrate on the final day of the bet, leaving the doomed mages praying to the goddess for the end of the world rather than face 10 more years of slavery. The day of the banquet had arrived before Ghislain knew it, having been busy with estate affairs. Deciding to forget about work for just 1 day, he made his way to the banquet hall, where free alcohol and meat were distributed to celebrate with both the servants and the estate's residents. Desperate to find any flaw to force a draw, Claude and the mages closely inspected the crowd, only to be horrified by the glowing, healthy skin of every single guest. When Ghislain asked the hall if anyone had experienced side effects, the crowd broke into overwhelming praise for the Lord and his revolutionary creation, forcing a defeated Claude to admit his loss and accept an additional 10 years of servitude. However, the enraged mages snapped, summoning flames and chasing a fleeing Claude and Wendy through the estate until Ghislain intervened and subdued them all. Now bound to a 20-year slave contract, Claude met with Ghislain to discuss the high production costs, primarily due to the rare fairy's blessing herb, and the challenge of selling luxury cosmetics without the backing of a famous duchy's name. Ghislain announced his plan to travel to the capital to market the product directly to high society, brushing off Claude's horror at his wild ideas of kidnapping nobles to force test the essence or resorting to door-to-door sales. Expecting to relax in the Lord's absence during the month-long journey, Claude's joy was instantly shattered when Ghislain bluntly informed him that he would be coming along to the capital as well. When Ghislain ordered Claude to join him on a journey to the capital to handle marketing and distribution for their new luxury cosmetics, Claude frantically protested, claiming he was too busy managing estate administration and running the Fenris Merchant Guild. Rejecting Claude's idea to sell the product line to a larger, established guild, Ghislain insisted on expanding their own guild to maximize profits and build external political alliances against the Delphine Duchy before war inevitably broke out. To relieve Claude's overwhelming administrative workload and ensure he could travel, Ghislain offered to recruit an assistant for him. Traveling to the old castle of the former Count of Diggold, the duo descended into the underground prison to recruit Lowell, a former official whom Ghislain had previously spared. Traumatized by his captivity, Lowell instantly calculated a complex math problem at lightning speed to prove his worth, deeply impressing Claude. With no intention of letting him decline, Ghislain offered Lowell a choice between a 20-year slave contract, starving to death in his cell, or facing immediate execution, leaving the gaunt, terrified official with no real option but to yield. After signing the 20-year slave contract to save his life, Lowell accompanied Ghislain and Claude back to the Fenris estate. While traveling, Lowell openly shared his vast knowledge of corrupt, underhanded tactics for exploiting residents and bankrupting rival nobles, boasting that such trashy behavior was praised under Count Diggold's rule. Though Claude was appalled by Lowell's parasitic mindset, he recognized the official's administrative talents and agreed to re-educate him under Ghislain's strict warning. Upon arriving at Fenris, Lowell was stunned by the estate's thriving, cheerful atmosphere and mountain of food, inspiring him to reclaim his long-lost childhood dream of becoming an honest administrator and helping the estate prosper. To lighten Claude's workload so he could join the trip to the capital, Ghislain appointed Lowell as the estate's new intelligence officer and administrative secretary, ordering him to lock down information and prevent spies from leaking the estate's secrets. 2 weeks later, as preparations for the capital trip neared completion, a panicked Claude reported that estate funds were depleted. Ghislain led Claude to a secret storage room packed with glittering jewels and gold, spoils of war he had secretly looted from Count Diggold and his retainers. Dismissing Claude's horror over the treasonous embezzlement, Ghislain casually justified the secret stash as a fair trade for the runestones he had given to his father. He had also looted the baronies that participated in the war. Claude was stunned by his shamelessness, but Ghislain casually argued that it was better for him to handle the money directly than to let Count Ferdium waste it. When Claude attempted to blackmail Ghislain with this information, Ghislain beat him up and brought in porters to immediately transfer the funds, proving he had anticipated Claude's financial plight all along, leaving Lowell under Claude's supervision and securing Count Randolph from Ferdium to train the estate's new soldiers by bribing his father, Zwalter, with a year's supply of food. Ghislain finalized his travel arrangements. Overriding objections from Belinda, Gillian, and Claude regarding the social stigma of a lord acting as a merchant, Ghislain prepared a massive caravan of freeze-preserved wagons loaded with cosmetics, protected by 50 mercenaries and 20 attendants. After everyone overwhelmingly rejected his preferred product name, Lovely Bling Bling, Ghislain reluctantly settled on Deneb, the sophisticated name used by the Duke of Delphine in his past life. With all preparations complete and his team assembled, Ghislain mounted his horse and led the expedition toward the capital. Arriving at Cardania, the grand capital of the Retania kingdom, Ghislain's mercenaries and companions were awestruck by its massive three-layered walls and vibrant, bustling streets. The overwhelming sight brought back intense, bitter memories for Ghislain, who recalled his past life when his mercenary army brutally conquered Cardania in a failed attempt to execute the Duke of Delphine. Overcome by these bloody memories, Ghislain inadvertently leaked a wave of killing intent that panicked their horses, which he quickly covered up by jokingly claiming he was merely jealous of the magnificent castle. At the city gate, a strict knight verified Ghislain's identity as Baron Fenris and inspected their cargo. Confused by a noble personally leading a trade shipment, the knight rigorously checked the cosmetics containers, though he flatly rejected Ghislain's offer of a free luxury sample, a decision Belinda warned he would deeply regret. Once inside Cardania, Ghislain secured 2 large inns to accommodate his massive party and wagons. When Claude suggested renting a permanent building to serve as their shop and attending noble banquets to market the new cosmetics, Ghislain expressed complete disinterest in the traditional approach.